Hey everybody, it's Kelly Just here with the Philosophy Society. It is December 11th, 2024, Wednesday. We're in the Toronto Metropolitan University Library, 860, and we are going to watch a movie today. So the Philosophy Society is like a general social organization, and then there are like modules within it. So one of those modules is called critical films, and I came up with this name like 15 years ago or something like that in 2008. And the purpose of it is is analogous to critical thinking, but applied to like critiquing films in some ways and trying to draw out the wisdom or meaning in the movie or the film. And this can also be documentaries too. Mm-hmm. And so I have a certain canon, or I guess like set of movies that do demonstrate some properties or principles of wisdom. And that's my justification for why we're watching them.
Awesome.
That's the reason. Mm-hmm. And so the first one is either Waking Life or Peaceful Warrior. So we went through both of those now. And then the next one is Gattaca. And I do them in this order. This film is about self-efficacy. So it's my competence or belief or confidence in my ability to complete tasks. So the higher our self-efficacy, the more that you'll believe in yourself to do things, right? And so part of that goes with Covey's habit too, begin with the end in mind, which is to say, what are my goals, right? And if your goals are correct, Covey uses this thing like correct principles and doesn't really explain what that means. And philosophical coherence would be one thing, but why a principle be correct? Does it match with my identity, for example? And so it's important for us to know what our goals are. And part of that, the philosophy or the wisdom behind it is knowing who you are, right? So Socrates has, there's this quote, know thyself, or the Oracle of Delphi had it inscribed on above the door or whatever. And that's important because you have to be yourself. You can't really be anybody else. Or if you try, you're not gonna be that successful, right? And so knowing yourself, knowing what it will make, that will lead you to what will make you happy. So me, I'm a singer. I like singing, something that I do. And so for me to have self-love is to make decisions that align myself with my identity. So I would practice singing, right? Mm-hmm. So first you have to know what that is, and then you have to go through the actions of creating a lifestyle that makes those things in line with it. Now, some things in life, like being a vocalist, are quite challenging, right? To say that you're successful. Even if you have just being good at it, right, is one thing. But then like having many people appreciate your craft or your art is another thing. That's also very challenging. And so this film shows a character who almost all of society is against him. I'm not going to give any like not yet, and not until after. Not, I guess, just because I don't know. So, and that's interesting because he has an identity, and then he not only has to deal with himself, but he has to like literally deal with society at large, right? And at almost every turn throughout the entire film, it's an uphill battle until something happens at the end. What's going to happen? I don't know. Oh, I guess we'll have to see.
You've seen it 20 times. Well, who knows?
Yeah, I have. And so the film's called Gattaca. It's about the title is based off of the name. It's like NASA, the name of the space organization. And and so he wants to become an astronaut. And there are in this science fiction film, people are screened based off of their genetic predisposition. And there are designer babies where they like modify the genes of the babies, and they just kind of make these superhumans in some ways. So if you were born naturally, you're at a disadvantage genetically. And it kind of discusses the concepts of nature versus nurture. So those that are born with the genes, that would be the nature. And then how far does nurture go? How far does your navigation of your life in your learning or whatever? Not even your parents, like nurturing wouldn't even be considered real. Like the nurturing from his parents they're part of society. So it wasn't really that good, right? They were also against him. And so the purpose we see this is like, how does he, like, is he successful? How does he achieve success? right? Like, what can we learn from this person as a role model? And yeah, and so I think there's a lot there that for ourselves to living the good life, figuring out what your identity is, and then following through with that. And there's one quote in the movie: "I didn't save any energy for the swim back." And there's a moment, and it's a very beautiful moment, right? To see this happen for this guy. And that also goes with the begin and the end in mind, like see what your goal is, and then everything goes towards that goal. And yeah, and it's also not saving energy for failure. It's just committing to what the goal is. And it's easier to do that if you know what the goal is, if you know your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. That was a few minutes. And we're going to watch the movie now. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the semi-post discussion. But then next week, we're going to go through some dialogues. Everybody, Skilly Just here with the Philosophy Society. So we just watched Gattaca. And now we're going to have a brief discussion, and then next week we will go through the dialogues and discuss it a little bit more in detail. Okay, so what's everybody's thoughts on the movie?
Someone else start because I'm looking.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie, yes.
Yeah, it's very. There's a lot of emotion, intense emotion, and a lot of interesting themes, I guess.
Yeah, very good.
What's really striking is the people who helped him with his mission, because you would expect that maybe some people wouldn't. He would be the outsider, but other people in the inside, they feel like they're outsiders, kind of like they feel that affinity towards them. There's no purity of this species of people, this race of people in this race. And they're all kind of interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was very meaningful that certain people helped him along the way and he didn't even really know it, you know?
And his own brother actually did the opposite.
Yeah, it's true. Well, his brother has the same kind of psychological condition as Jerome does, right? Jude Law's character. And part of the thing that matters is Jude Law, Jerome, or Eugene, says, if you do not succeed, try again. And that's why it's not just about determination, because Jude Law's determination was what? To kill himself.
Yeah.
And so it's about what your goal is. That's the first thing. And that's why all of my content kind of goes together. That's why Stephen Covey's book is actually very relevant to what we're talking about here with number 2, begin with the end in mind. And so determination is great, but if you're focused on the wrong goal, then you're just Jude Law's character, right? Or his brother. And the similarity here is Jude Law couldn't be second best because this elite class is socialized that they have to be the best, right? But the best is in relative. There's no objective best necessarily,
because they're all part of the same club. So I'm sure there's rankings within that club, for example.
But
what I would have liked to see, this is just a commentary on the movie, is more emotion in Ethan Hawke's character, especially when he's going into the spaceship, to kind of differentiate him from everybody else, because they're going through all these people who are just these genetically, manufactured humans, and here's this normal guy, and I would have liked to see like maybe some tears or some like smile or something that would differentiate him, But that's just the commentary.
he just rested. It was he slept. It was finally the time where he could sleep.
Oh, I see.
Right? Because it's been an uphill battle until the very end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Literally right there until the very end.
Yeah. And because if it was any other like doctor, he may have failed in that moment. Right? So there's some element of luck here, or things kind of coming together.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that the two main guys that have the genetic, positives are the ones in the end that are kind of failures.
Okay.
Like in a way, like not failures, but like, the guy who had the perfect genetics only got silver, and his brother has like flaws too.
Yeah.
Right.
He lost
it's interesting, like with the swimming. Yeah. It's interesting how that might be a comment on society, and like their futuristic society, that like what can happen to your mind, how you feel about yourself, depending on how you're labeled at birth, right?
Yeah, well,
and what the effects that can have in the future.
yeah, and like the mission director says, no one can exceed their potential. And if they do exceed their potential, that means we didn't accurately assess what their potential was in the first place. And so that's really, that inaccurate of assessment is the general theme amongst the entire film, is that how accurate can your evaluation of the genetic code be? And from a science fiction perspective, that is kind of the flaw of this narrative from the beginning. And so the writer made that explicit in the film when the director said that. And so really it's just, what is your accuracy in determining someone's life based on just their genetic predisposition?
Sounds like even at that level, you can't accurately quantify the inherently non-physical within the human, right? Mm-hmm. The desire, like you keep saying, the desire, the belief, it's something that you can't measure. You can't code it in the genes. You can't point to it and say, that's the desire. That's how much the person wants it. But there's these intangible components that you can't encapsulate into somebody's physical body. I think it's this really supports a lot of metaphysics, and we could draw those conclusions potentially, right? Okay. Also, because we're also assuming through everything that we see in the movie that everything is down to a science. Yeah. Right. They have everything planned out. It's down to a science. It can't fail, but it does fail because there's always that component that we can't figure out, that we can't measure. That's why if you look at all the greatest scientists, Einstein, Newton, and we're not saying that just because they said they have limitations with their calculations that God objectively exists, but they always get to this point where they realize everything kind of breaks down and there's something beyond what they understand and what they could understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, like science is an empirical investigation of like our judgments. We're trying to make sure that our judgments are accurate through a certain methodology. And some things may be non-empirical, but it doesn't mean that they can't necessarily be understood to some degree.
So I don't disagree with that, but Ethan Hawke's character demonstrates that if you believe in just the science, in just the scientific method, and you use that as your doctrine, as your religion, then he would have been a janitor his whole life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like this belief, this aspiration, this desire. It's like, I don't care what anybody tells me. Right. This is like this vision, this spark, divine spark, if you will. Right. That's why everybody's equal under the law. Right. The poorest, most degenerate people, and the richest, the most high status people, they're all innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. There's no exceptions in the law. Now, the law obviously becomes corrupt, but the reason we have certain principles embedded in society is because we believe that everybody has that equal value, that divine spark. And there's no way to rationally or scientifically justify that, I believe.
Sure. Yeah. Like the thing that I'm focusing on this was something is like the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So the false belief in the evaluation of his limitations, right, going with the scientific thing there, could lead someone to just fulfilling that false belief, which is inaccurate. They're leading themselves to this outcome, right? Whereas if you don't believe in it and you do the things that will lead you to your goal, which is what he did, despite what other people say, then you can be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what he does. And I think this, like, so if you ask, say, well, Achilles, why are we watching this movie? Right? Like, where's the wisdom here? And
I totally see it. It's so evident to me.
Yeah, well, that's because that's great.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask the question anyway, just so I have to make myself justify it,
Yes.
right? Okay. And so the reason is that it's knowing when to believe in yourself. So just like in The Peaceful Warrior, when Dan says, I should just listen to you. He says, no, you need to learn to listen to yourself. You have to develop the judgment to know what is correct from within. Stop taking answers from the outside and take answers from the inside. And that's the same thing with this film, right? At the end of the day, Vincent has to follow what his passion is and take himself as far as he can go. And at the end of the day, he is his own limitation. And so that goes back to well-being and meaning in life. And we can't have others dictate to us what is meaningful. We have to find that meaning within ourselves.
Yeah.
And so even though it can go against what everybody else believes, this movie specifically is one of the only reasons why I'm sitting here.
That's
Right?
cool.
Because I just made it so that I had to continue going forward. I made certain decisions and I threw away every other possibility. And it's been very difficult, but it's the whole not saving energy for the swim back, not preparing for failure, just focusing on being successful.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just, I think it's fundamentally important. And this movie kind of explicates that on how to take a very challenging situation and then like make the best of it. Right.
And I think there's a lot of messages that really go unspoken without dialogue, which is Ethan Hawke. He never acts as though he doesn't belong. He always he just goes through, he forces it. He doesn't ever demonstrate through his words that he's not supposed to be there. He's like, no, this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have trouble with that. Personally, I have some trouble with that. I'll share a personal experience that happened recently, actually. So I was in a group of people. I'm not going to say where because I don't want to get too much information. We could do it after, this.
It's
right?
fine.
But and I was with a family and they had children there, and they were all kind of around my age, and they were all very well educated, and I'm somewhat educated but not very well educated. I managed to do some things in my life that perhaps you would need some kind of education to achieve, but nevertheless, I had a sense of feeling kind of like I didn't belong there a little bit, and it felt really uncomfortable because I was like, even despite all of this, there's a part of me that's got a chip on my shoulder, that's insecure, that feels this way, and I didn't know what to do about it. I couldn't reconcile it. I'm like, well, so I don't know. Maybe somebody could say something about that because I didn't know how to. That's why I was looking forward to this movie because it was just so crazy how this happened. And you had already stated that we were going to watch this movie. Whoa, that's quite a coincidence. I don't believe in those, right? But right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's imposter syndrome, and I get that too.
I think it's deeper than that, man.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe you could expand on it. Maybe it's deeper than I know how to define.
Well, just feeling that you're out of place for some reason, right? And there's it's a social phenomena. So it's certain, I don't know, properties of the people there, and you not knowing that you don't have that property, like being highly educated. And then just keeping that in mind, I think that the way out of it is to identify a superordinate property that everyone has and not picking one that excludes you from it. Because having that as a fundamental element, because you could say the same thing about, I'm the only student of TMU right now here, right? So you could come in here and feel uncomfortable, like, I don't have a student card, I'm not allowed to be here, am I trespassing, Or you could just have a different approach that I'm here to learn, and that's what's important.
Right. Are you a student here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You have to be, or else you wouldn't be allowed here.
Okay. I didn't know if you were a student or a faculty or what.
Yeah, I'm a student. I'm preparing for my PhD right now.
Okay, here?
No, U of T and Western University.
PhD in what?
Philosophy of mental health.
Okay.
In this stuff.
That's a deep topic right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the thing that is enabling this imposter syndrome, this sense of not belonging, right? And sometimes you'll get people that will support this in-group, out-group bias. Well, they'll say that you don't, that you're not part of our group, And so the way to respond to that is to appeal to that superordinate category, the larger category, and remind people that we all belong together.
I think I do it to myself. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I'll put it all down. This is one of the reasons why I work out so much and I do everything that I do, because I feel like I'm not good enough unless I do everything that I can physically, spiritually, for my family, financially. Like if I don't do all of that, then I'm not worth anything. And I think I'm not it's not a pity party, because I think that's true.
Okay.
Because a person in society who's not useful cannot really contribute anything to his family, right? To his children, to other people in society. And I want to be able to reconcile that with just feeling okay about it, as opposed to like having this sense of, this doesn't match with what other people have achieved or who other people are.
So I would highly recommend reading Feeling Good by David Burns.
Right.
He goes through some examples of this.
Yeah.
He has a guy that loses his job and he's like a father, and his self-esteem is affected because he's not the provider anymore. And certain distortions that are involved in that would be like the should distortion, this unrealistic expectation. I should, be working out. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And those are the things that gives me value as a human being.
The problem is that I believe that that's true for me.
Okay.
Because I don't, my mission in life is to be as reliable as I can to as many people as I can, right? That's okay. So I believe that there are shoulds that I should, okay. I don't know how to put that. So okay. I don't know why that's wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can explain why it's wrong.
Okay. Because I suppose if I didn't have the shoulds in my mind, then I wouldn't have gotten to, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to get to, but if I didn't have that, I think I'd be a loser. Like I don't want to make this very,
it's okay,
like aggressive, but I feel like I would be a loser.
Yeah. So that would be
what are your shoulds? Like you want to work out and like eat healthy, or like
I guess I should. It's like a responsibility. Maybe that's a
better word,
right?
Because you're in control of it,
right?
You're choosing to respond.
Yeah.
You're choosing to make a decision,
yeah.
And you can choose of all the decisions available. You can choose the best one. You can also choose the worst one.
I have a question for you. Okay. If I'm responsible for something, should I do it?
Now watch how I'll say it. I'm responsible for X.
Yeah.
It's best if I do X. If I don't, these are the consequences.
So should you do it then?
It's not about should. It's that I have the option, and if all things considered equal, like there's no asteroid coming through the building right now.
Right.
Crazy stuff happens, right? It's best for me to make this decision, but I leave room to not do it just in case something happens. Because what happens with the should stuff is we create unrealistic standards to meet, and whenever you don't meet that standard, because that standard is tied to your self-esteem, then your self-esteem gets affected. Whereas if you make the standard objective, I will do it. You don't make the standard a requirement of your self-esteem. You make it an option that you can decide to do, because then you're assuming you're a rational agent and you will choose the best option. So you don't have to force yourself to do it. Shoulds becomes coercive. Albert Ellis talks about this as well. He calls it masturbation. I must do something. People get off on trying to control themselves and force themselves to do stuff, but that's not necessary. And it probably originates in poor parenting. The parents are just forcing their kids to do things, and then they internalize that, and they force themselves to do stuff. Where you're really discounting is the fact that you make decisions, and you will usually choose the best option, right? And if you don't, that's okay. If you reflect on it, you're like, oh, I kind of made a mistake there. There was a better thing to do, or whatever. Then you can be accountable to that and accept, hey, today wasn't the best day for me. Right? You can be compassionate and empathetic with yourself and understanding, and then you can work on the next time that thing happens.
I need to work on that, the compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that with my family. Well, my family is really my mom, my sister. That's not in the picture, but so it's easy to be compassionate with the women in your life, especially when they're, when they basically raise you, like we're super tight. So that I got to work on that, because I don't really know how to do that with myself.
Yeah. And so I think, again, Burns goes through this, and he discusses how if you, I forget specifically where it is because we haven't went through this for a while, but he's like, would you tell your best friend that you must do it? Like, would you be so hard on your best friends or your family? And then you would say no. And you say, well, why wouldn't you treat them that way? Why wouldn't you hold them to these really high standards? You say, well, because it's unfair. It's not nice. It's going to make them uncomfortable, right? Like they're not going to listen to me if I come with this coercive, forcing or damning or condemning approach to other people. I will lose those people. So then the next question is, well, why do you do it to yourself then? Why are you being abusive to yourself, and you wouldn't do that to your best friend?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's it. Like, would I want to be my own friend if I treated me like that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'd be like, who are you? Get away from me. So it's no wonder I don't take my own advice sometimes.
because
it's like I'm yelling at myself.
Yeah, you're like you're hitting yourself, and you just don't want to feel that, right?
Yeah.
And so what you do instead is you give yourself options. Instead of saying should, you just put a C there. I could do this.
Right.
I could do it. I also could not. Right. We don't know what's going to happen, but you leave yourself open to figure out whatever you can, because if you start reducing your self-esteem as a means to the end of completing goals, it's going to be harder to complete that goal. It's just like HP in a video game, because now you have 30% health.
You just described, you put something in words that I experience all the time. So crazy. Yeah, I gotta listen to this recording again.
Well, sure. That's
Yeah,
fine too.
this is great.
You need to read Feeling Good.
Right.
Natalia will read it with you, and she will. I'm signing her enough. She will tutelage you through that book. You can read it
I
too.
needed to, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
'Cause I've been going through some personal stuff, and Achilles have been helping me. So, and this movie is exactly what I needed.
Told you to be here.
Yeah. I missed the last time.
And
I'm
also
so glad
circling back to the movie, what's really
especially
interesting-
that line, like I didn't have save energy for the swim back. I love that.
Oh, that gave me chills.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I love
Like
that
it's
line.
like I didn't. That's like
Yeah.
my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like I don't have anything for the swim back.
And what's great about that line is it's not scientific,
Yeah.
right? The scientific approach is I gotta save energy for the because I gotta
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
He's like,
No,
I'm putting it.
I'm
Doesn't
putting it.
matter what
Doesn't
happens.
matter what happens.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this movie is that we see that if you put everything into your, I guess maybe this is some message that they're trying to send, which is that if you put everything towards your goal, things will kind of happen to help you along the way.
Yeah.
And some people call it luck, some people call it grace. I'll call it grace.
Sure.
But but luck, grace, whatever, right? But
Okay.
things occur to kind of conspire, if you will, to use that word loosely, to help you, or at least you're able to
Align.
see things. Align, yeah, sure.
Conspire has a negative connotation. Align's good though.
Yeah.
Also, like if I want to add to that, like I have friends. I'm sure you guys do as well. Like people who are like really determined what they want to do. Like they don't have a plan B in life.
Mm.
Like some of my friends, like they knew they wanted to be a doctor or a heart surgeon, like in like grade 5 or grade 7, and he's one of the best heart surgeons in Bangladesh right now.
Wow.
And another one of my friends, he's like he wanted to be a lawyer for as long as and he's like, so like some of us, we have a plan B. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. In case that doesn't work out, I'll do this. Or I want to be a lawyer, but in case I can't get into law school, I'll do. We have a plan B, right? Everybody has a plan B, plan C.
Mhm.
But people who don't have a plan B, who don't save energy for the swim back, they give it their all, and they tend to be more successful in life. Am I right? Or like,
Well, that's an empirical question. Like,
yeah,
let's at least take it as a principle, and the principle is a coherent principle.
yeah. Like a lot of people don't have a plan B in life. They just this is their only plan. They don't have like a fallback or like, okay, if this doesn't work out, or I'll just move back home, or I'll do this, I'll do that. No, they don't have a plan B.
Can we talk about that for a sec? Because I like that
Sure.
question because
Yeah.
I'm aligned with that,
Yeah,
but I know other people in my life who are successful who say, listen, if this doesn't work out, you should have a plan B and a plan C. Like they're very practical and they're actually successful.
okay.
So what is what's happening there? Are some people wired differently? Because I feel like I can't think that way. It's like I just have to move and it has to work.
Like again, remember in the Peaceful Warrior when Dan is like, what do you expect me to do? Give up what I love? I have a rod in my leg. And he says, the warrior doesn't give up what he loves. He finds the love in what he does.
Mm.
And so he's like, if you love training, just train. It's not about getting the gold. It's like, because look at what happened to Jerome, Eugene. He was going for the gold, didn't get the gold. Now he wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
Right? Because the only thing that mattered to him was being the best. Well, that's not realistic. That's an all or nothing thinking, which is a distortion, right? Being the best is different than doing your best. You doing your best is your limit, is your own limitations, right? And in this movie, Vincent gets to the point where he's doing like the sit-ups upside down with the celestial navigation thing, and he's like, no matter how much I train, there's a different barrier that's preventing me from being successful. And so he had to, it was like a plateau, and he had to change his strategy, and then he had to do the borrowed ladder thing.
Mm.
And it's like, like you have to make a decision in life. What's most important to you?
Yeah. And this movie is an excellent example because he goes beyond what a quote unquote normal person might do. He just goes beyond.
Yeah.
He breaks the law. Like he does everything, everything, short of like killing somebody, right? But like
Sure.
basically.
I thought maybe he killed that person.
That's
You guys
okay.
think that too, or
Yeah.
Right. No, he looked surprised when he saw the blood. So I didn't think he was. I knew it was like connected to the plot somehow. I just didn't know.
Yeah. David, any ideas? We get David on there.
What's up, David?
Well, I'm still thinking. It's a good movie. Yeah. I like to listen first.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah. So so this one kind of fits within our narrative that I've been putting together as I'm cross-referencing the stuff, and I think it's important to see it and you get those emotions, and this has helped motivate me like for I don't know 20 years or more.
That's awesome.
My first philosophy teacher showed us this movie in 2000. It's almost 25 years ago now.
So that's number one for you. Like your favorite, like your most, like the most impactful movie.
It's hard. Yeah, it's this one for sure. But then The Peaceful Warrior is also really good.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's also, but this one I think is even more emotional than The Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're both very similar films. I don't really know of any other films that are like these. These are the two in this category. And then there's other ones that we're going to go through as well.
Yeah.
And
Being there is good.
yeah, Being There is awesome. So yeah.
You haven't seen that one, so that'll be pretty cool.
We've already went through it, so you can watch it. And then
what's the next one? There's the next one I haven't seen.
The next one that we're gonna do is maybe Vanilla Sky.
Oh, dude, that's an awesome movie. I've seen
Yeah.
that so many times.
Cool.
Yeah,
I've seen that, but that would be cool to watch it
it's a
again.
great one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting for sure. And the ending just did like a
Yep.
went to another level. I was like, I did not expect that. I thought it was a crappy romance comedy.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm going through this Tom Cruise and whatever the hell this other girl's name is, you know.
Right.
And then I'm like, what is happening right now? And I was like, okay, that's going on. And then it went to the whole other level. I was like, I did not see that coming at all. Like, we won't give anything away right now for whatever reason. So there's that. Then there's also like The Matrix, the first one.
Yeah.
That's a good philosophical film to go through. There's a ton of
All
stuff
three
in
are
there.
kind of like the Bible, right? Like the New Testament, if you think about it.
Okay.
It is. Bro.
Tell me, yeah, right.
Have you seen the three?
Of course.
Oh, okay. So you see it then, obviously.
Number 4 can be cut out and
Oh, yeah. That didn't exist.
Matrix?
yeah,
That didn't exist.
That's
I don't know if
the
you
last
last
one.
one. No, there is no last one. There's three.
Well, the last one was like not even like part of the series, wasn't it?
There's no fourth.
It was
Yeah,
like they
it's
broke
bad,
off. It's like they broke off from like the
It's one of the worst
first
movies I've ever
three.
seen.
The three
Yeah.
were like a thing, right?
Yes.
And then fourth was just like this
Just
add-on.
this random thing.
They could have made a great movie. It's just that one of the siblings
Yeah,
backed
exactly.
out and the other one stayed in and then kind of made it about themselves,
Yeah.
which was stupid.
Yeah.
It was so
Uh,
different, and it was like it just didn't fit.
it sucked.
Yeah, it was like it's.
It was
I got a
really bad.
question about the Rio Jerome. What do you think is the meaning behind his silver medal in swimming? Because I think it was swimming, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there must be some link to.
I think it's like a statement that like, that like overconfidence maybe with you're told, right, that this is your genetics.
Mhm.
It's like an overconfident, like that's what can happen maybe in life when you're overconfident, is you can still lose, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have good genetics, right? It just might mean maybe you didn't train hard enough. Maybe your mindset wasn't as clear, like in that other movie,
Mhm. Sure.
Yeah. So it works in both ways, right? Where that other guy, he's told his whole life, oh, you're not only going to amount to this,
Mhm.
but he's like, his mind is just racing, and he's like studying all these books, and he's just got the
Right.
he's got the drive for it, right? So it's interesting, right?
And it's like a mirror with the fake Jerome's brother, who's
Yeah, I was
also
just gonna-
second.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Swimming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like Jerome was his brother,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Right.
Like his
Yeah.
adopted.
I think it's like everyone has like the potential to do anything really, and it's
They all had something to do with swimming.
Yeah.
It's true. Everyone has potential, no matter what you're told.
The girl, right?
I don't know. It's interesting. It's a very interesting movie.
Well, your potential is something that comes from within. It's not something that is put from the outside. That's the
Right.
big theme there, right? Because that motivation is not something that you can give to an individual. They have to have it on their own.
True.
Yeah, because if he were to go by the book, like you said, he would be a janitor his own.
Yeah.
Because that was what was designed for him, right? To be a
I guess
janitor.
it's not like what do you call it? Like predictor of the future, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
the genetic the way they manipulated their genes, it doesn't mean they can tell the future of what
Yes.
that person's going to do, and that's interesting.
And that's your great critique of the philosophy of science within the film. You know, that science has limitations, and we ought not extrapolate those limitations beyond what they are. You know.
Minority Report, by the way, is good for that too.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
future
that's
thing.
true.
Yeah.
All right, the bus is stopping here, and we will continue next week. David, you're cool.
Very cool. It's a good movie.
It was a great movie. What was the other movie you were saying that was good? Like you said, you saw it last time.
So there's the critical films list. You can go through that list on the YouTube channel.
On your channel?
Yeah. So there's The Peaceful Warrior,
Yeah,
Waking
the
Life.
Peaceful Warrior. That's the
Peaceful
one.
Warrior, Waking Life being there, and this is our 4th movie.
Can we watch it off your channel, or how do we watch it?
So you can just go on YouTube and you can rent it or buy it on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna turn it off here as the lights go off.